He answered almost before he'd sort of pressed answer on the phone. So I only got half. It was like, yep, or something like that. So I wasn't totally sure it was him. So I just said, Mr. President. And he said, I can't remember. I mean, we wrote it down, like scribbling down. He said something like, who is this? And so I introduced myself. And then he said, be quick. I haven't got long. But it was clear to me very quickly that he was willing to engage. And so then it's like, okay, right. What do we want to get from him? We know what's already in his Truth Social statement. There's a dispute over what what America has agreed to, what Iran thinks they've agreed to. So that was kind of what I wanted to get into, but always aware that at any point he might be like, no, I'm done now, or just hang up. So it was a kind of high pressure.
And obviously there are a lot of key questions to ask him today. First and foremost, is this a massive strategic defeat to the United States? But I guess you're also walking that tightrope between not wanting him to hang up the phone immediately.
Exactly. You can't, in that situation, go in with a humdinger, because you're just going to be like, I don't really know who you are. You're cold calling me at 10:30 at night. Go away, hang up. So you don't want to go in with that. So the first thing I said to him is, what is your, how are you feeling? You appear to have got a ceasefire in place. So how are you feeling? And he said, it's great. It's very good. And then he, as is his style, he then he was flowing then. So there was no chance initially for me to interject, nor did I necessarily want to at this stage. So he said, interestingly, that all the military objectives had been achieved in Iran. He said, we've done everything we want to do militarily. And then he said, it's a complete victory in those terms. I think he means in military terms. And then he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he then said, and in every other terms as well. So it's a complete victory overall, was how he was presenting this. Just a few days after, the pilots, the plane had been shot down, and that dramatic but fraught rescue. And of course, it wasn't the moment, there wasn't time to get into the questions over how complete a victory it really is when it's debatable how many war aims have been met. But it was very interesting.
What was his demeanour, Mark? Because I imagine he's pretty tired, pretty exhausted at the end of this day.
Yeah, good question. Upbeat. I mean, he's just got himself a ceasefire. It may be that he is, Iran has met his demands in his own head, perhaps, but he feels good about it, and he sounded very, very pleased. And it is, let's be clear, the fighting, as things stand, has stopped. That is good news, and he sounded upbeat. The other thing, Martha, I thought was really interesting is that we see President Trump day in, day out, either on television or up close. I was in the briefing room with him yesterday. That's how we see him performing. Very often, people like other politicians who know Trump, who deal with him. People like Mark Rutte, who's in Washington today, the NATO Secretary General, and others, they'll say privately, he's a bit different. He's not the sort of bombastic guy that you see publicly. I got a real hint of that in this phone call. He was courteous. He even said he liked Sky News. He thanked me for calling him. It was not the Trump that we see publicly. And it was only a minute and a half, but it was a very intriguing glimpse into this other Donald Trump that people talk about. It certainly wasn't the guy who was threatening civilizational erasure just a day earlier.